Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for this live webinar. I am Michael Farnum, CTO with Set Solutions. If you're watching this today, it probably means you're either a current Splunk customer or you're considering using them for advanced analytics capabilities for reporting, alerting, dashboarding, bringing all your security information into that. The problem with that we're going to talk about today is that the analytics are only as good as the data that you're sending into Splunk. So today, Brandt Varni here is going to be talking about, he's our Director of Practice Management. He's going to be talking about our Splunk app, Raise Situation, which can help Splunk admins get full visibility into the efficacy of their overall data collection in Splunk. So Brandt, how you doing today?
Doing well, thank you, Michael.
Good. Glad to hear it. So Brandt's going to take it from here. If you have any questions for us, please ask in the comment sections. We'll either take those questions during the webinar or I'll save them towards the end and ask them there. But Brandt, why don't you just go ahead and take it away?
Perfect. So like Michael mentioned, today we're talking about Raise Situation, which is a Splunk app that we've built here at Set Solutions. So what we're going to talk through today is the data quality problem, the challenge that many organizations face working with Splunk, how our Raise Situation app helps that, and then a demo of the app itself. So many people use Splunk as a SIEM and able to enable their incident response and real-time monitoring of their environment. So one of the challenges with that is you do have to collect data from lots of different data sources and make sure that they're coming into your system very reliably. So these are just a few of the common ones we see people bring in. But as a Splunk admin, you really want to make sure that you have these data sources in there so that you can alert within your SIEM. So let's walk through a brief example of why data quality matters. So let's imagine we're a SOC analyst. We grab our coffee on the way into the office, go through a couple of emails in the morning, and then we start to investigate our first alert for the morning. So we log in, and in this case, let's say we log into our Raise framework application, our SIEM application. We're able to see here the second alert is for known malware. So I know that there's malware on the system. I want to go ahead and look at the Windows logs and get a little bit more details about who's logged into that host. And unfortunately, way too many of us have seen this screen before and are suddenly wondering, where is my data? So this was the whole reason we built this app, is to avoid anyone ever seeing this screen and to make sure you've got the reliable data that you would expect to enable your investigations within Splunk. So what we've built with Raise Situation is an app to help make sure that your data is reliably coming into Splunk. So automatically detecting new data coming in and then alerting when that data stops coming into your environment. We also want to alert on different anomalies for the amount of data. So if there's a significant uptick in the amount of data or a large drop off in the amount of data, so that you know that the data that you're bringing in and using for your SIEM is reliable and you can depend on it for your alerting. So this first screen, we'll see more of this in the demo, is the typical alert screen that you would see and log into to get a summary of the alerts. So you can quickly look at the alerts, understand what data collection issues I have within my environment, and very quickly pivot over and address those. We also can configure these to be automated alerts to either send an email or open a ticket within a ticketing system. It's very flexible as far as the way you get your alerts within the system. So zoomed in shot here, we can see that we got an alert for our Windows logs, like we saw in the screenshot a little bit earlier. And so now we know upfront before that we need to go actually take action on understanding why our Windows event logs are not coming in and can correct that before an investigation happens. So as we start to dig into the details and really understand the different data sources alerting within our environment, we want to be able to go see what data is coming in, what is that pattern, and then if data has stopped coming in, what does that look like? So you can see in this screenshot here, with our green check marks, we've got events that are coming in for those different data sources. But down there at the bottom, you'll see some warnings. And you can see that we're not seeing events for 16 consecutive periods. So that period is configurable. In this case, this would be 16 hours. And you can see it on the far right, it's gone into our warning threshold. Hasn't quite reached the critical mark yet to where we would be alerting. But this gives you a very flexible framework to be able to set up when you want to alert on the different data sources. All of those thresholds are very customizable and very easily updated within the app and can be updated for each particular source. So let's say you have a more critical source that you want to make sure you get every hour. You can set your threshold down to an hour and alert on it that way, versus other data that you may only collect once or twice a day and collect. You don't want to alert on that every hour when it's not coming in. We also can look at the deviations in the amount of data coming in. So one of the things that we want to understand is maybe I didn't completely lose the data, but I'm not seeing as much data as I normally would. So did someone go make a configuration change on my host? Was there some update to the system that changed the amount of data that I'm collecting? And where this is important for security teams is understanding that they're getting the reliable data and the data that they would expect from the system. So one of the unique things that we're doing, instead of doing just a standard deviation across the board, is we're actually comparing similar time periods. So for instance, we're going to compare Monday to your previous Mondays. We're not going to compare a Monday to, for instance, a Sunday where you may have lots of people out of the office not working because it's the weekend. So those deviations help make it clear on whether or not the amount of data you're collecting is reliable in the system. So again, zoomed in view here, we're able to see that for the Windows event logs, we had a pretty large deviation. So we would have expected, typically we get around 8 million events. We have 8 million events in deviation from our standard that we would normally have for a typical Tuesday. So let's go ahead and jump into the demo. And 1 second while I get that pulled up. Okay, so as we showed in the slides a few seconds or a few minutes ago, this is our alertable situations page. So this is where you would log in and get an idea of what alerts do I have in the system. And as we talked about previously, we saw an issue with our Windows event logs where we were not having those be collected into Splunk. And as we can see here on the screen, we have an event, an alert for Windows event logs not being collected. So what would have happened in this case is we proactively could have sent an alert to the Splunk admin that, hey, my Windows event logs are not being collected, and been able to proactively correct the issue before it became an issue for our investigation and hindered our SOC team from being able to go look into the alerts. The simple sources page shows us details about the index and source type. So being able to understand whether or not I'm reliably collecting data for each of those different source type and host information. So you can see on the screen, we have the critical status for the Windows event log, which triggered our alert that we saw on the other screen. And we're able to see here that it's been silent for 12 consecutive periods. And you can also see that our threshold on the far right is configurable. And in this case, we set that threshold to 12 for our Windows logs. So as it reaches this critical threshold, we're able to send out an alert and notify the admin up front that there's an issue they need to go look into. And then as you can see, we also have some details on the other data sources coming into the environment around events, and we can see how often those have been normal and just see that we have a good, healthy data collection within our environment. Jumping over to the simple deviations. So in this case, we've had pretty reliable data coming in, but we can see there has been a deviation in the Windows event logs. And as expected, that could be from the lack of data being collected within the environment. So as we adjust those thresholds, we can tune this so that we get alerting on this as well. Where this is also helpful with Splunk is understanding how you're using your license. And when there is a spike within your license usage, what data sources are contributing to that, and where to start your look for understanding where that spike may have come from. We also can go down to the host level. So this is helpful for adding alerting for critical hosts and making sure you're getting the data from those particular hosts that you would expect. So for instance, if there's domain controllers or particular firewall devices that are critical for your SOC and for your alerting that you really want to make sure are always coming in, you can set that down at the host level and make sure that you've got that reliable reporting. Another feature we have in our race situation app is around the licensing statistics. So understanding at a granular detail how the data that you're collecting within your environment is affecting your Splunk license. So this is really helpful for Splunk admins in understanding what data is using my license and allowing you to make smart decisions around tuning that data and understanding what data you need to be bringing in based on your license restrictions. So as you can see here, we're able to not only see kind of a graph view of the different data sources coming in, we can then also come into the host level and see what host is contributing the most events. So if, for example, a firewall admin turns on debug logging for some work that they're doing, you'd be able to very quickly see a spike in the number of events coming in and understand that logging has been increased over on a particular device. And you can work with that admin to either reduce that or restrict what is being sent over to your Splunk environment for your internal reporting. We also make it very easy for you to tune the alerts within the environment. So within the application itself, we have very thorough documentation around how the app works, the different configurations under the hood, and what is going to help you to maintain this environment going forward. So for example, we can come look at some of these configuration lookups. And we talked earlier about being able to tune the number of the thresholds for the alerting. So very easily within a lookup, you're able to come in here and change based on the index or source type, your thresholds for alerting. So it makes it very easy and very customizable for you to tune the different data sources as you need. We also have this same view down to the host level for your more critical hosts. So I hope everyone's enjoyed this presentation so far. Michael, checking back with you. Do we have any questions so far?
So I think the one question that I've got here that's pretty interesting, and I think we probably get it a lot, is how we license this. So what's the, I know we're getting it out of Splunk base. We've got the link there in the Splunk base, but if getting this onboarded for a customer, how do we license it?
Yeah, so the typical way we handle that is it is a professional services engagement to work with your team to get this set up within your environment, get the tuning in place, make sure that you've got the knowledge on how to run this yourself, how to onboard new data. And then after that professional services engagement, it is yours. So there's no reoccurring cost. It's the one-time work with our team to get this up and running for you and help get the alerting in place to help make your team successful.
So basically getting it installed, getting it operationalized, they can take it from there. And then if they need help with support after that, we can provide help there, but it is their app operationalized for their environment.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things that we do as part of that is we customize it to your environment. Mm-hmm. One of the things we've seen with many of the applications off of Splunk base is they've got a lot of great content, but they may not fit your environment perfectly. So working with our team to customize it to your environment and really make sure the solution works well for you is a large part of why we do it the way we do.
Gotcha. So a lot of people may not know, I know you mentioned it earlier, but we also have the SIM app raise framework. Is that necessary for them to have that, to also have a raise situation, or are these two separate apps?
So these are two separate apps. They definitely complement each other. We'd love for you to be running both, but it is not necessary that you have to have a raise framework to run raise situation. Raise situation is a standalone app and is available really for any Splunk environment, and really can help any Splunk admin get a better handle on the data they're collecting within their environment.
So one of the questions I've been asked before is, you talked about it a little bit, but bringing in new data sources, what's the process once we get there? And if customer, either while we're customizing it or later, if they want to onboard new data sources to get a look at those, how's that process work?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the great things about this application is we have it set up to automatically detect new data sources coming into your environment. So it'll automatically pick up some default settings and really set up at least default alerting immediately for you within the environment. So when we do the initial setup, we work with you to understand what that default should be, and what makes sense for your environment. And then just by bringing the data into Splunk itself, you'll have automatic alerting in place for those new data sources. And if you start to get too many alerts or need to tune from there, we have the documentation here to help give you an idea of how to actually go about tuning the alerting for that particular data source and make it more useful for your environment.
So for our customers who have this and they've got a SOC built out, do you see them having a couple of individuals that monitor this? Do you see them having this as a larger, as part of their SOC build out with the screens on the wall? And do they have that up there typically showing those alerts? What's the typical way they're using this and operationalizing it?
Yeah, so typically sometimes they'll have a view to kind of prove that the data is coming in as expected. But where we really see the most value is for your Splunk admins, and really some of the automatic alerting that we will configure on the back end. So whether that is sending the admin an email when data stops coming in, or automatically opening for instance, like a ServiceNow or Jira ticket. So they know immediately what actions they need to take and can really remediate that issue before it even becomes a problem for the SOC. So we see the SOC use this more as a validation tool and knowing when their alerting is working. And if there is a data collection issue, having an understanding of what time period they've had that issue for, so that they can go back and do some data validation and investigation for any gaps that happen. So it helps them kind of audit themselves and audit their alerting that they have in place to make sure it's reliable.
So great tool for that. Could be used for metrics to show executives that the overall Splunk environment is doing well, data collection is doing well, but definitely more of a tool for those alerting if you've got data onboarding issues or data feed issues. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, this has been a great demo. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Brandt, you got any parting comments or?
No, just happy to have shared this with everybody, and thank you everyone for joining.
Well, thanks, Brandt. Appreciate you showing this. Again, we've got the links in the comments for anybody who wants to look up Raise Framework. It's in the Splunk, or Raise Situation and Raise Framework. It's in the Splunk base. Both are in Splunk base. If you've got any questions about this, please reach out to us on our website. We have a contact form there, and or you can reach out to your Set Solutions account manager to help you out. So, but thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it, Brandt, and everybody have a good day.
Thank you.